Hey YouTube, Coldwater from Phantom Trading here, and today we are going to be talking about our favorite pairs to trade the Phantom trading strategy with. Now, we're going to start here with probably the most popular pair within the entire Forex market, and of course it's going to be Euro Dollar. So let's pull up Euro Dollar. This is probably the most traded pair within Phantom, and again within Forex. It's the most traded Forex pair globally, accounting for about I think 20% of the total Forex trading volume, right? So there's a lot of volume behind it, a lot of liquidity. Euro is the base currency, while of course the US dollar is the quote currency, meaning that when the euro is bullish against the US dollar, you're going to see bullish price action like we have here or here, right? And if the US dollar is bullish against the euro dollar, we're going to see bearish price action, right? Because it's the quote currency. Okay. So there's a lot of liquidity in this market. And because of that, there are low spreads, right? Low bid ask spreads for the pair. And it makes it a very attractive option for both novice and experienced traders. So within the community, I mean, there's a lot of us who trade. I mean, I trade it on the 15-minute. You have people who trade on the 1 minute. You have experienced traders who trade it as their only pair. You have novice traders who are coming in and trading it as their first pair because there's plenty of data and price action to kind of work with. And again, the spreads are so tight on most brokers that it just makes a lot of sense to, use this as your first pair to trade with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the different pairs first, and then we can kind of look at some of the price action of each of them, the recent price action. So what's the next one on the list? Well, if you guys don't already know, of course, it's going to be the pound dollar, which is also known as cable. So let's click on that, GBP USD. And why is the pound dollar so popular? Well, it represents the British pound, or the sterling pound against the US dollar. So it's similar, right? You have the pound, which is the base currency, and the US dollar as the quote currency, right? So same thing. If the pound is bullish against the US dollar, you're going to have bullish price action like this. And if the US dollar is bullish against the British pound, you're going to have bearish price action, right? So I know some people like to look at DXY, which is the US dollar index. And of course, if that is bullish, you're going to see this be bearish, right? They're inversely correlated because that's tied to the US dollar. Okay, so what else can we talk about with GU? Well, I think, according to my notes here, GU is the third most traded currency pair on the Forex market. And it's known for its volatility and high liquidity. Totally true. GU is probably my favorite Forex pair to trade the Phantom trading strategy with. And there are a ton of people within the Phantom trading community that also trade it. We know Blackwatch obviously loves trading GU. I think it's the only pair that he really trades. He doesn't even really look at EU. I like it. Alex or Tricky likes it a lot. Brad and Kev, they trade it as well. Pretty much everybody on the team trades GU for the most part, except for Aaron, I think, and Don Miguel. I don't think Migs does, but we've all traded it. I really like it. I think the volatility is really nice. Of course, you have the option of trading it, in the London session because it is the pound, right? Makes sense. Or in New York session. There's going to be volatility in both of those sessions, and even in Asia sometimes, right? Same goes for Euro Dollar, by the way, right? So they're both pairs that are really great if you want to trade either London session or New York session. Even if you're just trading one session or the other, they're fantastic pairs for that. So, of course, you can take advantage of the high volatility that you see in the market. I mean, just on an intraday, right? You can kind of see, look, today, we had high impact news. It was not restricted. There was a Fed Powell testimony, but look how much it moved, right? Even on days where there aren't news, we've had kind of a slow month all around the board with a lot of the Forex pairs, but look, there is still, a lot of movement in New York session, of course, London session. There's plenty of opportunity here just even to trade the 15-minute, which is mainly what I do, right? Sometimes I'll refine down to the 5-minute, it happens, but again, I mean, look at this. I think there was news, I don't know, it was just ISM PMI. So high impact news, not restricted, but look how much movement there is both in London session and New York session on GU. And EU, does it as well, right? They're going to kind of dance back and forth. Sometimes they're both volatile. Sometimes one is volatile and the other isn't. And that's just kind of how it is. So if you ask me, if you're starting out with trading Phantom and you either live in the UK or, somewhere in North or South America, any of the Americas, I would suggest starting with EU and or GU and starting with, executing on a time frame like the 15 minutes. So you really hone your skills and you're not getting so overwhelmed with trying to learn how to trade the 1 minute. That's my professional advice to anybody who's trying to get into trading the Forex market. Okay, so moving on, what's the next pair, if you guys can kind of guess what it is? It's going to be actually that's the wrong one. It's going to be Aussie dollar. Okay, so Aussie dollar is a pair that's traded by one of our team members, Aaron, also known as Nora within the community. And why do we like Aussie dollar? Well, again, it's another major currency pair. I don't think I mentioned this, but obviously all the pairs that I've mentioned up until now have the US dollar as the quote currency, meaning it is a major currency pair. Actually, it doesn't matter whether it's the quote or base currency. As long as the US dollar is in it, there's going to be a lot of volatility, right? Now, in this case, Aussie dollar, of course, has the US dollar as its quote currency. So same thing, right? If we have bullish US dollar, we're going to see bearish price action on this instrument, right? Because the US dollar is stronger than the Aussie dollar, right? And vice versa. If the US dollar is weak when traded against against the Australian dollar, you're going to see bullish price action like so. Okay, so Aussie dollar, let's talk about it a little bit. Fantastic pair. One of the characteristics that I like about it a lot is that you'll see that it chains a lot, right? Even on the 15-minute, look here, we just have chain after chain. There's good volatility because it's a US dollar pair, and because it chains a lot, you have a lot of opportunity to sort of get into it, profit off of it. I mean, you can re-enter if you'd like. Maybe you'll get break even if you don't manage it properly, but look, just crazy amount of supply and demand chains here that are kind of available. Now, of course, without going too much into detail, there's a little bit more to it than just picking chains like this. To be able to read that and be able to, actually trade this properly, of course, you're going to need to do what? Well, you're going to need to practice the entire phantom trading strategy, learn supply and demand, liquidity, and all of that in order to be able to analyze the charts effectively, and then actually be able to pick high probability zones to trade off of, whether you're trading off the 15-minute or the 1 minute, right? But again, look, a lot of opportunities. I think Aussie dollar is one of the cleanest pairs. It does chain a lot, like I mentioned, and there's good volatility at the end of the day. Now, in terms of trading this pair, when does this pair move most? Well, you'll actually notice that it moves quite a bit in Asia. And why is that? Well, Australia is part of APAC, right? So the reason it moves is because the primary trading session for the Australian dollar is Asia. So if you live in Australia or in Asia, Aussie dollar is a fantastic major pair to trade because it gives you a lot of opportunity to take advantage of the volatility that you'll see in Asia session. As you can see, these are all Asia session, the blue boxes here. Look, tons of movement. I think this one might have been news. Look at this one. This one's huge, right? And beyond that, of course, there's also going to be movement in London and New York session too. So it's not just limited to Asia. Now, the thing is, obviously, if you live in Asia or you're in that time zone, or Australia for that matter, or New Zealand, any of those APAC countries, well, the thing is, New York session is going to be in the middle of the night for you. The same way that, London session is in the middle of the night for me as somebody who lives in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, the Eastern Standard Time Zone. So if you live in an Asian time zone like this or an Asian country, it makes total sense for you to trade Aussie dollar. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic opportunity and pair to trade. Now, personally, I don't trade it because, to me, I have Euro dollar and GU, but that doesn't mean that you can't. And again, we have Aaron, which is one of our resident team members at Phantom Trading. He's a funded trader. AU is the only pair that he trades. And by the way, where is he from? He's from the UK, and he's trading AU. mostly in London and New York session. I don't think he does Asia, though I guess he could. It would be like nighttime for him. I guess it's kind of in the middle of the night for him too, right? But look, even if you live in the Americas, I mean, you could trade AU during Asia session too, right? Just early Asia session before you go to bed. That's an opportunity. So I think AU is a very versatile pair in that sense. It's not like it's just locked down to, the two major sessions that most Forex pairs tend to move in, but it tends to move all over the place. It chains. It's clean. It's a clean pair to trade. Okay. Moving on, what's our next favorite pair here? Well, I already kind of gave you guys a hint. It's going to be dollar yen. Now, here's the thing. Not a lot of people trade dollar yen in phantom trading, but there are a handful of people that do it. I've traded it over the years. And what's the reason I like it? Well, it's a pretty nice major pair. The spreads are decent. They're not as good as euro dollar or GU spreads aren't even all that good either. Like, they're better. They're probably the second best. But I would say, dollar yen is great, again, if you live in an Asian country, right? So I wanted to try to, give you guys a list that gives you a bunch of options depending on where you live in the world and what session you plan on trading, right? Because I know not everybody lives in the Americas or in the UK. So to be fair, we got to show some of this too. And you'll see there's going to be volatility in Asia session for dollar yen as well, right? You can kind of see it here, lots of movement. And I think there's plenty of great opportunities to trade this, whether you're trading it on the 15-minute or, you want to trade the 1 minute or the 5 minute. There's plenty of opportunities. Again, it's a major pair, right? You have the US dollar now as your base currency. So this one actually correlates with the DXY, the dollar index, the US dollar index. The reason being for that, again, it's the base currency. The yen is the quote currency in this case. So if we have a bullish US dollar, you're going to see bullish UJ price action. If we have a bearish US dollar, you're going to see bearish price action. Meaning, obviously the yen in relative to the US dollar is bullish, right? When we see bearish price action on this, and vice versa. If the yen is weak against the US dollar, you're going to see what? Bullish price action. Now, US dollar yen is a bit of an interesting one because these are both safe haven pairs, currencies. So, it definitely has different characteristics compared to euro dollar and the pound dollar, but I think it's a great option, right? Some honorable mentions before we move on to some of the indices, because I want to talk about indices as well. Let's start with GBP JPY. Again, another fantastic pair. Honestly, this moves in pretty much every session. Same thing. I know Blackwatch has traded this in the past. I've traded in the past. I liked it. Again, not great the past week. That just happened to be like the market conditions. But you can see, look, it moves. Same thing. A lot of the time in New York session, it moves in Asia session. These are not great examples of it, but sometimes it moves in Asia session like this and leads into London. London session, it moves as well. I mean, look at this move in London, right? Pretty crazy. Makes sense, right? Pound is the base currency. Yen is the quote currency on this one. So honorable mention, GBP JPY, great pair to trade. Again, you have a handful of people that trade it within the phantom trading community. But I would say the majority of people trade euro dollar and then GBP USD, then Aussie dollar. And moving on, we'll do one more honorable mention. That's going to be US dollar, Swiss franc. And of course, same thing. Lots of volatility on this. Why? Because it's a major pair, right? These major pairs, as long as you have a US dollar, the US dollar in it, you're going to see a lot of movement. I mean, look at the amount of volatility we saw today. Again, I know we had high impact news, but even in London, we moved quite a bit. And if we get out of these sort of choppier market conditions, you can see there's a lot of movement here. A lot of these are news as well, but it tends to move in London, right, and New York session, dollar Swiss. So again, another interesting pair because what do we have? We have two safe haven currencies against each other, and it still happens to be pretty volatile, right? So again, I think this is a fantastic pair to trade. Again, I've traded this in the past. I didn't trade it for long, but it is a pair that I traded. In fact, I actually traded this before I ever traded supply and demand concepts. I used to trade this as a retail trader, and I found it was pretty decent. So I actually used to swing trade it on the 4 hour, so we can actually kind of look at that. This will bring me back a little bit. and I would just play, support resistance, typical retail strategies and patterns and stuff. Now, moving on, what else do we want to look at here? Well, we can look at the indices. So right off the bat, there are a couple US indices that we like to look at within Phantom. So of course you can look at the SPY, the S&P 500. Now, not a lot of people actually trade this particular instrument, but it is pretty similar to the two other indices that I'm about to mention here, which would be, of course, the NASDAQ, so US 100, which again, a lot of movement in New York session you're going to see. Sometimes it moves in London even, surprisingly. But of course, this is a US indices, so this is, US index, so this is best for those of you that live, in the West or in the Americas, because this is going to line up with your time zone. The other nice thing about this is the New York stock market open, or the US stock market open, is 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can convert that to your time zone if you're not in the Americas or not in the Eastern time zone, but it opens a little later, right? The Forex market, like if you're going to trade New York session, I would tell people, be ready at the charts at around 7, start marking up, right? Because sometimes there's going to be an early setup. With this, you still want to do that. You probably want to be, at least here by 8:30, 9, mark it up. But then 9:30 open happens. You start to get a kick in, of volatility, stuff whipsaws, and then it shoots in one direction or the other. Typically, you're going to see a lot of volatility, right? It is the U.S. stock market after all. It's a very volatile market. So, of course, I think this is a fantastic pair. I trade this on the 15-minute. I love it. What else is there? Well, there's also US 30, which is the Dow Jones. So similar, but doesn't move exactly the same way. It does still have, of course, the 9:30 US stock market open, but these are 30. I think it's 30 or 40 now. I think they added 10 more companies. You can fact check me on that. Google it. But they're US blue chip companies that are within this index that are traded. Some big household brand names that you probably know of. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any. But this is more focused on I would say industry type stocks, as opposed to the NASDAQ, which has more tech and healthcare. I think it's healthcare related stocks, right? Blue chip stocks. So similar movement. I mean, you can see there's a lot of volatility at New York Open, right? In this case, again, we had news at 10. Jerome Powell testified, so we saw movement from that. But you'll notice that a lot of the time, 9:30 open, you're going to see some sort of spike in volatility, right? Not every day, but this is probably a pretty good example. Yeah, see, look, 9:30, we move down, we move up, and it's not the cleanest. Like, liquidity tends to get built and swept quite a lot on these indices, but if you can learn how to trade it, there's plenty of volatility for you to take advantage of, and I think it works well with the Phantom strategy, as long as you really practice and come to understand how liquidity operates in these markets. It is a little different from Forex, I will say that. It's not as clean, but again, it's manipulated, and if you can read that manipulation, there is an opportunity for you to make consistent profits with it, right? That's all trading is, right? I mean, in this case, it's really about reading manipulation, and it's the same with the Forex pairs too, but with the indices, it's a little bit more. But I think it's a lot of fun to trade these particular instruments. So those would be the main ones. And let's do one more honorable mention. Of course, it's going to be gold. And why do we like gold? Well, gold moves a lot. It moves quite a bit. There's a lot of volatility. Spreads are a little higher on this. The nice thing, obviously, about the indices, as we were talking about just previously, the spreads are pretty low. If you're trading a funded account, a lot of the time they don't even have commissions on it. And either way, lot size, like the way the contract sizes are, they're pretty small. So even if there is commission, you're talking about a tiny commission compared to what it is with Forex, right? You need a lot of leverage in the Forex market. But with, the indices, you don't, because you're not trading a fraction of a cent movement, right? In the case of like a major pair, right? Like, I don't know, like euro dollar or whatever, right? So in this case, gold is really great. There's a lot of volatility in this one. So again, another really fantastic opportunity to trade a high volatility pair. But But yeah, I wouldn't even say this is an honorable mention. We have people that trade gold in phantom trading as well. So the nice thing about phantom trading and the supply and demand strategy that we teach and trade ourselves in the live market is that it is very versatile, right? You can use it pretty much in any market. You just have to adapt it, right? Some of these pairs and instruments have different characteristics, but it's just a matter of learning the pair, studying it, collecting data, and then exercising your edge in the market to produce a positive return, right? So that concludes the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and happy trading.